The real reason why people think cartoons are for children is because of World War II, and the story is pretty fascinating. Many people think of cartoons as basically kids stuff. I mean, not me and not many animation fans, but I would say most people feel that way. And it didn't used to be like that. In the 1920s and 30s, animation was basically a brand new art form that had just been invented. And more importantly, it was massively popular primarily with adults. Disney, Warner Brothers, and MGM got very popular for creating animated shorts that would be played before movies at the theater. Looney Tunes, Mickey and Minnie cartoons, Tom and Jerry, they were not made for children. They were made for grown adults to watch before they saw some Clark Gable movie. And then World War II happened, which honestly didn't really affect the animation industry too much because they all got paid to make propaganda cartoons. But then World War II ended, and there was a big time of economic prosperity in the United States, and the middle class was booming, which you would think would lead to a lot more people going to the movie theater, but it actually had the opposite effect. Due to this economic boom throughout the late 1940s and early 1950s, real estate companies started investing in suburban development. They built the suburbs, and these middle-class families moved there in droves. Movie theaters were still in the cities. Suburban megaplexes didn't exist yet. And also, the way that suburbs spread out families, they found it harder and harder to find an aunt or a grandma to watch the kids for an evening while they went out. Movie theater attendance plummeted in the 1950s, and they stopped needing cartoons, which basically bankrupted most of the animation studios, except for Disney, who had gotten into feature animation with their 1937 film Snow White. But two animators named William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, who had created Tom and Jerry at MGM but had recently been laid off, had an idea. What if they could make animation for this popular new format, TV? And in the late 1950s, they created Hanna-Barbera Productions and started producing the world's first animated shows for TV, like the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and the Huckleberry Hound show. And this was very lucrative for them. They got extremely rich, but there was a high cost that came with it, or rather a low cost. In order to crank out cartoons fast enough and cheap enough to drive a profit, Hanna-Barbera had to cut a lot of corners, so they developed something called limited animation. The methods of limited animation included things like minimizing dynamic motion, so not a lot of action, and significantly increasing the number of dialogue scenes which required little movement, and also reusing animation or creating scenes where they were only animating a part, like a mouth or some eyes. So unlike the technical marvels of the 1930s and 40s that everybody loved, people started increasingly viewing animation as cheap and low quality in the 1960s. And while there was still plenty of theatrical animation, by the 1980s, the primary home for cartoons was television, and people mostly thought of it as children's entertainment, a babysitter rather than an art form. And though animation has gotten significantly better over time, that seemed to have created this cultural attitude that just never really went away, and people still mostly feel like this